Hey guys, it's GS Luke, back again for another golf preview. This time we're back after another successful week at the Travelers Championship, where we were able to get 5 of our 6 golfers through the cut. Our only to miss was Emiliano Grillo, who missed right on the number. So overall, a successful week for us here on DFS. This is my normal golf preview. This time it's going to look a little bit different. This time I'm separating my golf preview into 2 sections. This video is going to be covering the field, the course, as well as my top 3 metrics for modeling this week on Draftkings. My second video, which is going to come out later on today, is going to be covering my top 6 golfers to target there on Draftkings. I'm separating the 2 to give people a little bit more of an option of what they want to see. If they want to see a DFS preview on what to expect at the tournament this week in terms of how it's playing, the course, the setup, all of that, that's what this video is for. The other video is more for my DraftKings picks. If you're looking for the best players to target and that's it, that's what that video is going to be for. So look forward to that. And if you're looking for the picks, expect that later on this afternoon. But this time we have the Rocket Mortgage Classic to take on here in our DFS contest. Last year's edition of the tournament was dominated by Bryson DeChambeau. He went out there, hit absolute bombs off the tee. The rough was not penal at all, and he went out and dominated. He was my pick to win last year. I ended up winning a lot of money in the betting market as well as the DFS market. So we're looking to build on that momentum from last year, as well as some of the momentum that we've carried over the last 3 weeks. Just to give you guys an update on our record, we are 17 for 18 getting people through the cut our last 3 weeks. Again, our only miss was Grillo last week, and that was right on the number, so it hardly even counts. So if you're new to my channel, I just first want to welcome you to my channel. Here on GS Luke DFS, I implement a data-based approach to take on all daily fantasy sports. I use a lot of the tools and techniques that I learned as an electrical engineer to help take on a variety of different daily fantasy sports. I cover the NBA, NFL, PGA Tour, UFC, and many more to help you guys with your DFS lineups. I also have a Patreon page that I launched just last week. Right now it's just for the PGA Tour. I give my projections, my ownership update, my player poll, as well as some other game theory notes. So make sure to check that out. It's only $1 right now. It's as cheap as I can possibly make it, so you guys can get a taste of what I have to offer before I end up raising the prices here the next few weeks. So make sure you get in there. Make sure you check out my content if you're looking for even more. And let's hop into the preview. Now for some of the details this week, we have the 3rd edition of the Rocket Mortgage Classic. The first edition in 2019 was won by Nate Lashley, and last year was won by Bryson DeChambeau, like I said before. We have a normal tour stop, meaning we have a full 156-man field. The cut's the normal top 65 and ties. And just to go over some of the notables that we're seeing this week, we're going to have Bryson teeing it up, Matthew Wolff, Phil Mickelson, Hideki Matsuyama. We got Willie Z, Jason Kokrak, and finally we have hometown from Detroit, Ricky Fowler. So we have a lot of these guys gearing up for the Open Championship here in a few weeks. Next week's John Deere Classic is likely to be devoid of most of these stars. Most of them are going to be flying over to the Open Championship, getting over there in Europe. Making sure that they're gearing up, getting used to the time difference, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is our last week before then to really get a full field in DFS. Plenty of the guys in the field are going to be highly motivated as well, especially a lot of the people that won't be playing in the Open Championship. You have a lot of people in that 100 to 125 rank range, a lot of those 125 to 150 guys that are really looking to secure their spot in the FedEx Cup playoffs this year. But not only just that, also to secure their tour card. If you guys don't know, last year's qualifying in terms of keeping your tour card was nullified. They decided to roll it over into the 2021 season. But after the season, only the top 125 are going to be keeping their tour cards. Obviously, the people from 125 to 150 and even 150 to 175 do get special exemptions from time to time, but you're really looking to have that consistent control of your schedule, and you're going to see a lot of guys fighting for those points this week. So not only the top guys looking to get ready for that major coming up, I think there's going to be a lot of drama farther down the board in terms of guys that are actually going to be PGA Tour players next year. So with the stage set, let's talk about the course for this year's event. This week, we have Detroit Golf Club, specifically the North Course here in Detroit, Michigan, and this is an absolute ball strikers course. So we have some tight fairways on the front 9. The back 9 is completely wide open. So on the front 9, you got to make sure you keep your ball in play, and on the back 9, it's absolutely bombs away. Last year's event was target practice. We saw an extremely low score win. The greens are very receptive. They were a little bit more damp than I think they were looking for, and it turned into an absolute birdie fest. So accuracy was the key to scoring in those conditions. I think this year it may be a little bit different. I think we're looking at a little bit more emphasis off the tee, just because I don't think it'll be quite as receptive. This is a Donald Ross design, so a very classical design, I would say. His designs are very consistent as well. All the greens are going to be sloping from the back to the front and relatively severely as well. What this means is that if you miss long, you're absolutely dead. You have a downhill pitch. It's going to be very difficult to stop. But it's also very difficult if you miss left and right. If you miss left and right, you're dealing with a sloped pitch, a pitch that's very hard to actually get close to the hole. So you're looking for players that are very good with their irons, they're accurate with them, so they're not dealing with those misses. And you're also looking for people that have good experience on a Donald Ross design. Again, they're very consistent. There's a method for playing them. Usually you want to miss short on these type of designs. It leaves a relatively easy pitch, an easy putt. It's easy to get up and down if you miss short. So making sure that we look at some of the shots gained numbers on Donald Ross designs is definitely going to be useful. Taking a look at some of the specifics in terms of the scorecard, we have a par 72. It's a typical par 72 with 4 par 3s, 4 par 5s. Nothing strange there. We have a 7,370 yard course, which makes it just about tour average in terms of a par 72. We do have some long holes in play though, some short holes as well. We have 2 475 plus yard par 4s. Those are going to be difficult. They're most likely going to play over par this week. And we also have 2 par 5s over 600 yards. So as a result, I definitely think that length is going to play a factor. Those holes are going to play over par, and those that can play those under par are going to get a ton of strokes on the field. In terms of some of the grass type that we're going to be seeing, it's going to be Kentucky bluegrass all over. You're going to have it in the fairways, in the rough, and even on the greens. Kentucky bluegrass is a mix of the bent grass and the Poa Nua surface. It's very similar to what we saw at the Travelers Championship last week. It wasn't Kentucky bluegrass on the greens. It was just in the fairways and the rough. The greens was more of a pure bent grass Poa surface. But in Detroit, it's a very unique surface, I would say. We don't see Kentucky bluegrass on greens very often. It's a little bit more inconsistent than the again, pure bent grass Poa I was speaking of before. But I think a lot of the guys that had experience on the Travelers Championship last week, some of the guys that putted well on the surface are definitely going to be an advantage this week. They're going to be used to it from last week. They're, again, showed prowess on it. And those are going to be some of the guys that I'm looking to target this week. And now for my top 3 key stats this week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. At number 3, we have shots gained off the tee. Again, like I said before, we have some long holes. We have a relatively average length golf course, and length off the tee is always an advantage. I'm also including accuracy here, so I'm using the full shots gained off the tee numbers just because playing from the fairway is a huge advantage, especially at Birdie Fest. When you're in the fairway, you have much more control of your spin. You don't get flyer lies, you don't get left or right knuckleballs or anything like that. And as a result, you want players that are in the fairway that are also taking advantage of that length. So that's why it comes in at number 3. At number 2, we have birdie or better percentage. So at Detroit Golf Club, especially last year in 2020, we saw an absolute birdie fest. The winning score was well into the 20 unders. We saw most of the top 5 get over 20 under par. And as a result, I'm looking for players that can go low this week. For anyone doing DFS, birdie or better percentage is always important when looking at fantasy scoring. That's because birdies are just that much more important than bogeys, especially when it comes to your raw score in fantasy. For Draftkings, you end up scoring 3.5 points for a birdie, and you only lose 1.5 for a bogey. So, for example, last week at the Travelers Championship, Aaron Wise ended up with 20 birdies, came in last place for people that made it through the cut, but ended up being in optimal play just because of how many birdies he made. He scored well over 70 fantasy points, so that just shows you the power of being able to score fantasy points. And now for number 1, we have shots gained approach. This is a staple of my analysis from week to week. Shots gained approach is going to be even more vital this week given it's a Donald Ross design. Like I said before, the misses are a little bit exaggerated given the slopes of these greens. If you miss left and right, you're dealing with a tough pitch. If you miss long, you're absolutely dead. So I'm looking for guys that don't put themselves in a lot of trouble, but also people that give themselves plenty of opportunities to score. If it's going to be a birdie fest, if we're going to see a winning score under 20 under par, you're absolutely going to have to be very, very much on par with your irons. So I'm looking for people that are historically good iron players, but also people coming in with good form with their irons. That's all I've got for this week's golf preview. I'm going to have my top 6 golfers coming out here in just 3 or 4 hours. Just got to wait for the salaries to drop on DraftKings so I can make sure it's all accurate for you guys. But let me know in the comments, what you guys think the winning score is going to be this week. If you guys can guess the winning score, I'm going to give you guys a free month of my Patreon just for getting that right. So make sure to enter. You can enter 2 to 3 times if you guys want. Doesn't matter to me. Make sure you enter for that chance. As always, make sure to like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the content. It really helps me out with growing my channel. It also makes sure that you guys are going to see my content as soon as it comes out, so you guys don't miss anything. So make sure you guys do that. Good luck with your DFS lineups this week. Let's win some money, and I will see you guys next week.